Welcome to Beyond the Inbox, an e-commerce podcast brought to you by Drip. In each episode, you'll hear from top e-commerce marketers and founders who will reveal the customer-first strategies they're using to grow their sales, subscribers, and revenue. Now let's get into today's episode. In this episode of Beyond the Inbox, I'm joined by Raoul Benavides, founder of Heart Soul Heat, a company that produces a spicy honey hot sauce. Raoul shares his experience in marketing his product and growing his brand, including reaching out to influencers, using QR codes, and advertising on podcasts and digital billboards. He also discusses the importance of vulnerability in entrepreneurship and his vision for using his brand as a philanthropic platform. Listen in for insights on creative marketing strategies and connecting with customers on a personal level. Raoul, welcome to Beyond the Inbox. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Yes, thank you. Glad to be here.
I want to start by asking, how do your experiences as a photographer and entrepreneur prepare you for starting Heart Soul Heat?
The way I think about it is that they're all connected. It isn't necessarily my experience as a photographer or entrepreneur. It kind of has to do with my family experience. I mean, I think that I kind of come from a place where it's okay to fail. I think, my father and my parents have always kind of instilled hard work into me and my family. So failure is easy when you love working because you can get out of it. People who are kind of on a thread and they're hoping to kind of gambling in this entrepreneurial space, thinking they're going to hit the seven figures or whatever, quote unquote, successes. They have all their chips in one place. And if they don't succeed, they don't know what they're going to do. For me, I think of it like no matter what I'm doing, it's going to be something that involves creativity and vulnerability. And I'm open. I'm kind of always open to new ideas and ways of connecting with people.
I want to ask you about the dream you had about your grandfather and how that gave you the idea for Hot Honey. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I've kind of been in the entrepreneurial space my whole life. I worked as a commercial photographer. I used to own a record store. I had a bug farm. I've done all kinds of different things, and this project is a COVID project. It kind of allowed me some time to not be full throttle on something. And this dream of my grandfather, who started a candy company in Monterrey, Mexico in 1940, called La Gardenia. It's still going on now. I just had a dream about him. And the dream kind of happened, in this very woo-woo, hard to explain kind of magical way. And the dream kind of happened over 3 nights, and I think I was just in this place where I could listen and really take it in. And the dream was not necessarily about ghost honey. It was just about sweet heat, condiments and candies, and him and my grandfather. And I just had enough time to have the idea to kind of simmer. I think for a lot of people, COVID was such a mixed blessing. It gave a lot of people the space that they longed for, that they didn't even know that they needed. And if you happen to be in that place where you were open to listening, there was a lot of energy going around.
I heard you mention in another interview how everything came together during this period, as you just mentioned. And I wanted to ask you more about what were the next steps. You have this dream, and over the course of several months, you start to think about the ingredients, you start to think about how you will have one product. Can you tell me more about what came next?
What came next is, I was already kind of cooking every meal, so it was easy to really play. So what came next is it just kind of this mixture of ingredients, but in a certain way, ingredients is metaphors for ideas. I knew that I wanted to do a product that was simple. As in it was a clean label. There was no preservatives or junk. Something that you want to feed your family, but something that was interesting and that was spicy. And I didn't know what it was exactly at the beginning, so I just started playing. I wanted to limit the ingredients, and so every day I would just kind of do some experiments. And it didn't start off with the idea of this ghost honey, but it just sort of developed, and it developed quickly. So once I had sort of an idea of what I wanted to do, I bought some bottles on Amazon, and I just started sending out to friends. So yeah, everyone. Of course, you had to ship stuff. Nobody was talking, or no, people were talking, but nobody was talking in person. I said, I'm kind of working on this thing. I'm gonna send it to you. Let me know what you think about it. And so it just started developing there. But because I come from commercial photography, and I've always had businesses, branding, and any of the stuff connected to it is very natural. Before I even had the idea for Ghost Honey, in the dream, the name Heart Soul Heat came up right away, and it was kind of the anchor point for what I was going to do, or what my plan. Kind of it was the fertile ground to put anything on top of. So I got the website, and I just started doing these very primitive things because it's I could put a website together very quickly. It was easy for me to do, and I started getting all this feedback. So I made a rough label. And by then I had an Instagram account, and I just found all of these sort of spicy influencers. And I just said, hey, I got this idea. This is not a legit product yet. Can I send it to you and get your feedback? And so it kind of ended up being a snowball, It just ended up being small, and I got more and more yeses and more feedback. And it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And then, it was one of those things of constant refinement. And I think of it now that way. Kind of the bigger it gets, the more you have to constantly be refining as well. Operations and connecting with people is a beautiful battle that always has to be fought.
I think that's a really interesting takeaway. So you're on Instagram and you're reaching out to spicy influencers, as you put it. Are these influencers with big followings, or are they very niche?
All over the place. I didn't, in a certain way, I didn't care, but I didn't care who it was, whether it was a mom or some guy that was really into hot sauce or spicy stuff. I just cared that they could receive the call and understand what I was trying to say to them, and then not freak out about giving me their address, or like that they knew how the process worked.
And were you sending the product to these influencers, or were you paying them to promote your product? What did that process look like?
No, because there wasn't anything to promote per se. I just sent them a bottle with no label, and I would just write. I would put a sticker on it that I'd made in my basement, and I just got a lot of nice feedback. Yeah. And then or people would say, like, once this is, you get a proper label on it, send it to my friend, this guy who does actual reviews for actual products, and he'll help you, grow your channel. I'm like, oh, okay. The more people that you connect with, the more they can connect you with other people, and, so on and so on.
That's really interesting. So leading on from there, how has Heart Soul's Heat's marketing strategy evolved over time since those early days?
How has it evolved? I think, well, I mean, it's evolved definitely in reach. I think of it like, I don't consider my company a D2C company. At the beginning, I thought that D2C was the way that it was going to open up, because I think everyone did. But for me, I really think of it in an omni-channel way. And I'm one of those people who's like very anti-funnel. Funnel isn't something that is. I don't want to be in a funnel, and I don't want to put people in a funnel. It sounds very restricting. Mm-hmm. I think about it very much like energy, but I think of it all in a flywheel. I think of it like there's people who get introduced to your brand in one way or another. They find it on a grocery shelf, Amazon, or online somewhere, and the where they come in to your brand, whether it's through the website or through a QR code or through a billboard or a sticker, is one thing. And I think about nurturing these connections and these people, and through events, or I'm not really one of those people who thinks about sales. I the website sales that we do have, I consider very much a loss leader. I don't do a lot of direct to consumer, but the stuff that we do is a way of getting them connected. I don't know if that answered. I don't know. That kind of went sideways.
We can.
I don't know if that answered.
I have so many follow-up questions, so I think we can jump back into that. So one thing I loved, and you just mentioned it, you talked about QR codes, and I thought this was so fascinating when I was researching for this episode. So can you walk our listeners through the process of buying the product on Amazon and everything that entails?
So Amazon is a funny thing. I'm one of those. I feel like I'm one of those few people who really likes Amazon, because I know what it is. If for us, it's a channel. It's a reach channel. I'm not interested in. I think there's a lot of people got caught up in this new entrepreneur hustle ship where everyone's driving Lamborghinis, and I'm sorry for those people who got caught up in that. There's nothing about this entrepreneurial game that's easy or quick. And if there is easy, if you find easy and quick, it's gonna burn out fast. I like Amazon because there's so many people on it, and it is its own little universe. What happens on Amazon is very different than what happens in real life or on retail shelves. Amazon is very much about numbers. They care about how much energy you bring into the platform, and they care about how much advertising spend you have, and they don't really care about you, which is okay. I like playing games where I know what's happening. I use it as a distribution platform. People can find me on there. In the United States, I think the number was like 65% of all shoppers are on Amazon, countrywide, which is humongous. And it's easy to use. It's easy to check out, and they do the fulfillment for us. As a small company, you've got to find partners that can help you do the things that you can't do or don't want to do at this stage in your business. So, people find us through Amazon. The QR code is on the bottle. Through the QR code, they can find our store locator. They can find more information about me, the company, or buy directly. It's one of those things where the more we can get our product into people's pantries, the more that product can connect with their families and their friends, and the bigger it grows.
So regarding the QR codes, they're scanning the QR code, and is it taking them to the website, or is it taking them to a local store? How does it work?
No, so the QR code company that we use is this company called Bridge. So it goes to a landing page that's put together by Bridge, and we get to customize that landing page. So it's pretty simple. First of all, it goes to our store locator, and then we have this this little segment through this company called WeStock that people can request the ghost honey in a store near them. So they can make a request, which is very interesting and very kind of a cool little feature that doesn't cost anything, of course, for the consumer. They can request it, and that information we can use to pitch buyers to grow our company. And so it goes store locator, request the ghost honey, more about the brand, more about founder story, and then they could repurchase right there.
Another strategy I know has worked really well for you in the past, and I want to ask if it's something that you're still doing, is advertising on podcasts. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, I love podcasts and I love podcasters. I think because there's something about uh, um, podcasting that's very vulnerable. You know, it's vulnerable being an entrepreneur, and it's nice to share that to support people who are in that shared vulnerability in their own way. So, and I love it. There's something about podcast advertising that's really, you don't know who and where it's going to go for and when they're going to connect with the brand. But it's kind of kind of think of it like an umbrella platform, because it can be rebroadcast, and it can kind of goes on the internet forever.
Are you sending that traffic to a dedicated landing page, or how are you?
It just goes no, it goes right to the it goes right to the homepage. Everything that I do is usually has a UTM tag, and it's very um, very monitored, and it's very trackable. And I love the podcast. I love podcasts, and I don't want to track it. I don't spend a lot of money on podcasts, but it's nice to just sort of have that energy in the air, and I don't have any expectations about it. And I don't know, it just makes me happy. Yeah, yeah. There's we we've been doing lots of out of home advertising, which I kind of think of it very much the same way, except it's very targeted by location. So I do lots of digital billboards, and I think about my brand and the growth of my brand in a real city by city. So our big concentration right now is the Midwest, Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Paul, where we're located, Austin, Texas, Houston, and the state of New Mexico, and kind of everywhere in between. Kind of the middle of the country is kind of where our growth channels are, or our growth energy is. So I do a lot of dedicated Google ads to sort of pick up sort of as a background filter to pick up any buddy trying to find the brand through a digital billboard that we put up. And what I like about the digital billboards is that you can kind of click them on and off, and you can change the creative very quickly.
Are you talking about display ads, just so I'm clear?
No, I'm talking about actual out of home billboards on the side of the road.
Oh, wow. Okay. Can you speak more on that?
Yeah. So there is the company that I use is called Blip, and they're a national. They might even be international, but they're a national. There's a national company that you basically put in your amount of money that you want to spend for the day. You get to pick the billboards, and you get to pick the times, and of course you get to pick the creative. So it is what I love it. If I'm going into a city, I kind of have this think of it like a welcome flow, but it's a welcome flow of billboards. So I'll do for 2 weeks, I'll put this creative, and then the other that's maybe more vague, and then for another 2 weeks I'll put this other creative, and then the third one I'll be very very literal, as in what the product is, where it's located, and there's something about it that I really love. I think of it like podcasts, and I love out of home in general. With every Amazon order, we put a sticker, and we've sent out or given away 50,000 stickers.
Wow.
And the sticker is just the bottle, and they're all over the place. They're all over. They end up being all, I don't know. I find them in the strangest places. Yeah, because we've given so many away.
Oh, it gives a whole new meaning to omnichannel marketing.
So I use Google. Yeah. I think as brands, we give away a lot of the control. I think that we think that we're supposed to do things a certain way, and everyone ends up doing the same thing, because fear's common, and people spend their whole careers trying to not be vulnerable. All I want to do is be vulnerable. I mean, I'm producing something that's going in someone's mouth. There's nothing really more intimate than vulnerable than that. And everyone has their own opinion of what is good. So I think about, because I've done this my whole life, I think about it as I only want to have radical ownership over what I'm doing and how I'm delivering it. And who I want to invite to the party. My goal with the brand is to use it as a philanthropic platform. I want to make a condiment, some sort of spicy Mexican-inspired condiment, with someone like Lizzo or Dave Grohl, and have every dollar go to like inner city music programs. I think that CPG is such a wonderful channel, and I think people are caught up in other people's idea of success, and they're not seeing the full opportunity. Of course, you have to be successful. Of course, you want to connect as wide as possible, and have clean ingredients and do good things for the environment. But I think it could be so much more. I want to give and connect in ways that aren't obvious.
I want to return to something you just said about being vulnerable. How can more e-commerce founders be vulnerable in their marketing while still maintaining that authenticity?
Well, we authenticity is that's very personal. Yeah, I don't know what authenticity is. I mean, the biggest thing is that I come from a hip hop, punk rock, immigrant background. I mean, I'm anti-corporate from the beginning. They wouldn't let me in the door if I wanted to. So most people that you run into that are 30-something CPG founders came from some sort of corporate thing, and vulnerability is not something they've ever been known to lead with, even though it's all vulnerable. It's all money on the line. It's all everything on the line. I think it's personal, but who we are, and the DNA of what makes us happy and what makes us get up in the morning is the thing that defines who and what we do in the universe.
I think it's something that readers or potential buyers pick up on very quickly. You can tell sometimes when someone is, say, telling their origin story in a welcome email, and it almost seems templatized. Here was the problem. Here was how I solved the problem. And I think consumers are able to pick up on that very quickly. And I think it's something that's important to emphasize.
Yeah, and I think that, yeah, for sure. But I think that the part that that you don't see, or that you don't know until you know it, this idea of not only brand maturity, but really knowing yourself and knowing what's important. And once you have that, you put it into everything. But it's not something you figure out immediately. Of course, success. I mean, of course, you don't. If it's not paying the bills and if it's not doing the thing, you're not going to succeed. You're not going to. There's not. You have no growth. But I think that there's a way of being more present and more creative and more connected without going through this known path. For me, it's like if there's something that involves an agency, or something that involves some people talking about some 7 figures or some ridiculousness, how could you ever help me? How could you ever, if you don't share that vulnerability, that thing where you're a maker, a doer, or a connector, how could you ever help me? How could we ever partner up?
It's interesting food for thought.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about entrepreneurship is that we all get to roll our own. We all get to be who we are, however we want to be, in whatever stage in life, and there's no wrong. But if you're lucky enough to see above the bushes, the world is really vast, and it all wants to be connected.
What are some of the things that you're doubling down on in 2023?
Doubling down on I'm doubling down on more out of home, of course. But I'm really interested in some events. I'm interested in maybe sponsoring some concerts, or maybe I kind of want to do some sort of guerrilla sampling. I've been talking to a couple of stadiums, baseball stadiums and football stadiums across the country about maybe doing some sort of pop-up ghost honey chicken sandwich. So I'm kind of one of those people. For a while, I was waiting for people to come to me in life. Like, oh, I have this idea. Maybe the world will come to me, and it took me some years, but then I figured out that the world's never going to come to me. That I have to do it myself. So I'm going to work on making a product that involves my product. So whether that is a food truck, chicken sandwich food truck, maybe even some sort of a state fair, something a little abstract. I'm not sure exactly what. It could just be a real chicken nugget ghost honey sampling in the middle of downtown Chicago.
How are you striking this balance between acquiring new customers and looking after the customers you have? Because obviously it is a replenishable product, and I'm curious what you're doing to drive those repeat purchases without making it too marketing-y or salesy.
The nice thing, I just hired a content manager because I was just kind of doing everything myself. So that person's going to help me kind of get my creative together and kind of connect the dots for me. But what the nice thing is that when you do things or grow into different parts of the country, or do collaborations with different companies, is you always have something to talk about. So my whole thing is about always trying to have 5-6 things in the pipeline. So if a couple of them don't make it, I always have something to talk about. And I don't talk very often to my email list, but I try to let people know that I have something going on, maybe 9-10 times a year, but it's one of those things where I always try to let people know what I'm doing without letting them know what I'm doing. So sometimes I use the email list to run some social pay through. I don't always use it for what it's intended. But so that's kind of sort of subtle, but constant.
I think that's a great place to bookmark this conversation. Raoul, I have really enjoyed this conversation. I've learned a lot. I was making notes as we were talking. I'm going to look more into digital billboards. I love that idea. I love what you're doing, and I love how you're thinking about it. Where can our listeners go to learn more about Heart Soul Heat?
Yeah, just right at heartsoulheat.com. That kind of connects. We're big on Instagram and heartsoulheat.com, or I should say at heartsoulheat. And I try to keep the channels very simple. I don't go hard on a lot of different platforms. I like Instagram because I'm very visual, and that's the place to find us. And my DMs are always open. I'm always interested in talking to entrepreneurs or different people who are interested in connecting or partnering up on something creative.
Perfect. Well, we'll put all those links in the show notes. And Raoul, I want to thank you again one more time for taking the time to join us today, and all the best in the future with Heart Soul Heat.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Beyond the Inbox, an e-commerce podcast brought to you by Drip. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. To leave a review, go to ratethispodcast.com/drip and choose your favorite app. That's ratethispodcast.com/drip. Thanks for listening.